Hey, Jay.
Hey, buddy.
How are you?
Man, I thought you might ask me that. So I've been giving a lot of thought to that.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I know I could be better if I were Harrison Burton.
What about that?
Maybe Jeff Burton, but definitely Harrison Burton. That was so cool.
It was cool. I mean, and for those who don't follow it, Jeff Burton, a longtime driver in NASCAR, and he has now gone up to the announcing booth. And most people that have followed NASCAR at all know the Burton family, right? And you know Jeff Burton. Well, his son, Harrison Burton, is a driver, too.
Yeah.
And you might know more about this story. He lost his ride with the Wood brothers, right? They basically fired him.
That's right. No, he's been he didn't use the word. He's fired, but he's working out his notice.
Right. They're not going to renew his contract after this year.
Exactly. That's right.
And he, with his daddy calling the race,
right,
he won the race at Daytona this last weekend.
Yeah.
And he was emotional. Obviously, Jeff Burton was emotional. They did something they don't often do. They got a camera shot on the booth.
Right.
And he couldn't talk. You could tell that he was very emotional, and it was just cool to see.
No, it's great. And yet, I don't know if you were alive when this happened, but that happened before with Dale and Ned Jarrett, Dale Jarrett and Nell Jarrett, and I think it may have been in Daytona.
Oh wow!
And Dale Jarrett beat Dale Earnhardt. The two of them were racing, and they let Ned Jarrett call it the last lap.
Oh, did they?
And he swapped and he switched into dad mode. Right? I mean, he couldn't help it. But yeah, you need to watch this, great, because he was calling it's the Dale and Dale show. This is Ned Jarrett calling the race live, man. Mm-hmm. And he says, and you know which Dale I'm rooting for.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and another, and not to turn it sad, but there was another incident similar to that where Darrell Waltrip was in the booth for Fox when they were taking the last lap. And this was at Daytona too, is the day that Dale Earnhardt died. And Michael Waltrip, his little brother, was going to win the race, and he was so excited that he won the race, and he was yelling and screaming, and you go, Mikey! And then there's a pause, and he said, I hope Dale's okay.
Yeah, and you could hear it in his voice, too. I think he knew it was bad.
Yeah. So, anyway, but yeah, it was really cool to see Harrison Burton winning the race last weekend. That's very good. I love it. I love it. Jay, I hope your life's going well. Mine is great. I got a couple of days off, and I got new grips on my golf clubs. I can't tell you how excited I am.
That's great. I'm a person of simple pleasures, right? And a couple of things. I have been working on making perfect scrambled eggs. and I've just gotten all into this, and I'm getting there, and I'm just so delighted. But the other thing I did, man, and this just pleases me to no end, I've got a new pair of golf socks. The little socks that don't go all the way. You don't look like the old guy, with the sandals and the black socks. But yeah, I got some new golf socks, and it's changed my life.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear. I mean, is this the reason? No, hold on a second. You said you're trying to perfect scrambled eggs.
Uh-huh.
The last time we saw each other, somehow eggs came up, and you said, well, you're not putting salt in your eggs before you cook them, are you? You remember that?
We were at Waffle House.
I think because you said that there's something about you don't want to salt them or put spice in them before you cook them because it breaks down something or another in the egg.
No, I've been all over the internet about scrambled eggs.
Well, I can't wait to see. I might get a chance to see your golf socks this weekend. You never know.
I hope you do.
I'll tell you what, you show me your golf socks, and I'll show you my new grips. How about that?
Okay.
All right.
I like
that sounds like an action plan. All right, Jay, a number of folks already bringing in questions. We're going to answer them all. I'm going to get to them, I promise you. At 615-737-9986. Jay, the phrase superseding indictment has come up in the news lately. Would you care to tell us what a superseding indictment is?
Yeah, it's just a fancy word for amended. On the civil side, we would just call it, you file the original complaint, then you amend it, you change it. And on the criminal side, it's just you file the original indictment and then you amend it. And they hoity-toity, and so they call it superseding. And it's flowing from the case that went to the United States Supreme Court. This case that we're talking about went to the United States Supreme Court. And it's the case where they dealt with the issue of presidential immunity. And then that's when they said that, yes, the president is absolutely immune for official acts that fall squarely into his job as president, but he's not immune for unofficial.
Jay, I'm going to apologize for interrupting you. I'm going to interrupt Jay for a second because I'll tell you what, we'll take an opportunity to go ahead and take a break, pick up on him and see if we can get him in a better little location. We're kind of losing the cell there. I don't know why, and I know Jay's very good about not moving about during these visits together. You know what we need to do? I'm gonna work on this weekend when I see Jay. We're gonna get him on Zoom. That's what we're gonna do eventually. But for now, we'll get back to Jay.
How is drugs going to help the interview?
What?
Oh, never mind.
And more people than you can shake a stick at want to know what Jay's recipe for the perfect scrambled eggs are on the membersnutrition.com super text line. It's my Thursday, my Friday, your Thursday. And so we have a Fri Jay edition.
It's Friday Eve all day long on the Matt Murphy Show.
No. Jay St. Clair is with us, and the conversation has turned to eggs. Jay, the question has been posed to you. I mean, this is a legit question for our legal correspondent, a man that has argued cases before the United States Supreme Court. Jay, the question being asked more than anything is, do you add milk to your scrambled eggs?
No.
No? Oh.
No.
Okay. Are you willing to offer the Jay St. Clair scrambled egg treatment to the listening audience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You got to understand where I started, Matt. I started on what I would call college scrambled eggs or bachelor scrambled eggs, where you just pick any frying pan out and you put it on there, you crack the egg in the pan.
And then kind of whip it up in there?
And just take your fork, and screw it up a little bit. And then burn it.
Right.
That's where I was.
Right.
Well, I was tired of that. And so with the internet now, we can all be experts in everything. So step number one, and very important step, you got to beat the eggs first, right? I mean, you just got to beat the eggs first. I don't add anything to it. I think it's better to have them at room temperature. And then you don't want the pan hot. You don't want it very hot. I cook mine in olive oil. Butter is another alternative, but you got to have something. I got a stickless pan, but it's better. You got to have something in there. So I put a little bit of olive oil, which gives it a really kind of exotic flavor. And then here's the two keys. It's low heat, but then I never knew this technique, man. Instead of stirring the eggs, you take like a spatula and you pull it from the outside into the middle. I never knew that, and apparently that's a pretty common cooking technique for all kinds of things. And so just as it begins to harden up around it cooks first around the edge. And just as it's starting to cook around the edge, pull that into the middle. And just keep going around the pan, pulling it into the middle. And then that way, instead of just getting these kind of, they're falling apart and there's no real big lump of eggs, right? It's just a bunch of crumbs, if you see what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You end up with one big solid mass of scrambled eggs. It's almost, sort of like an omelet. I mean, it's one piece. You can pick it up with a spatula, and it's great. And
I love everything about this.
The other thing is don't overcook it, because once you take it off the heat, it's still going to keep cooking a little bit. And, you cook it to taste. Some people like theirs a little bit creamy, and sometimes I do. It depends on the mood of the day. But I'd say first you got to beat the eggs. Don't just put them in the bake. I cook them like the Three Stooges used to, when when they're short.
You're such a bachelor. You're such.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't realize. The funny thing is, Jay knows that I probably cooked more eggs in my life than anybody will, because I worked at Waffle House for so long during college. And you're so brilliant. You do this with legal matters too. You start for us plebes that don't know. The first thing is you got to beat your eggs.
That's right.
Out of the pan.
No. Absolutely. That's a key step.
It is a key. You're right. You're right. You've lost. There's nothing.
Because I guarantee that. Well, I don't know. Maybe at Waffle House, did y'all do that, or did y'all just crack the eggs?
No, man. You got to beat them in the bowl. You put them in the bowl and you whip them up in the bowl before you put them in the pan. Of course.
If you don't do that, it doesn't matter what else you do. It's not going to be right.
You may as well be eating fried eggs.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, come on.
That's well said.
Right.
Actually, that's very well said.
I mean, yeah.
That is what you're eating.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, that's what you're doing. So I would say, I mean, to taste, and a lot of people are agreeing with this, is that, a little milk or some sort of cream-based something.
My mom did it. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and then that's all a matter of taste. I mean, that's going to depend on just how you want it and how you like it. And Ray writes in and says scrambled eggs suck unless you put a lot of cheese in it. Well, I mean, Ray, I would suggest you just like cheese.
Ray, how much creamer do you put in your coffee?
Me?
You don't know Ray.
Oh, Ray. Oh, yeah.
Didn't you say that who the writer of the coffee was?
Yes, yeah, Ray wrote that.
Well, you're not drinking coffee, you're drinking cream. If you got to put cheese on you're not eating eggs, you're eating cheese.
Wow. And Jay and I have sat across the way at Waffle House many a morning, and I've dumped a lot of creamer in my coffee because I don't like coffee. I like chocolate milk. I like hot chocolate. And that's what I try to make my coffee taste like. Jay happens to be a coffee snob. I happen to know. I'm going to tell a story. I happen to know that Jay St. Clair is such a coffee snob. Bell, if I told you that this man of simple pleasures, as he describes himself, if I told you that on trips that he took his own coffee maker into hotel rooms with him because he did not want to depend on the coffee service at the coffee shop downstairs, and he didn't want to depend on the coffee pot in the room. Would you believe me?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
Well, hey, Bell, you know who else did that?
Who?
James Bond. I learned that from James Bond. Roger Moore, when he played Bond one time, he's got this suitcase and M's in there with him, and he's unfolding this thing and puts this huge contraption together, and it's a coffee maker.
You think it's like going to be a gun or something, and it's a coffee maker?
Or an atomic bomb.
Oh, right.
And he makes a cup of espresso, and M looks at him and says, "Is that all it does?"
All right, Jay, hold on. We're going to talk some real legal matters in just a moment, right after Jay Harper's news. A lot of egg conversation going on the membersnutrition.com super text line. Jason writes in and says, Jay, that's how I cook my eggs, except I substitute bacon grease for the olive oil. Man, Jason, my grandma would have loved you because everything had bacon grease in it at Grandma's house. More coming up with Jay, and we'll get into this superseding indictment and what it means. I don't think it means much, but we'll find out from Jay exactly what it could mean from a legal perspective coming up next on Super Talk. Jay St. Clair with us right now. Lots of questions for Jay, and my goodness gracious, Jay. I'm just going to read some of these membersnutrition.com super texts to you. These are not questions. These are comments. You ready?
Yes, sir.
There is nothing you could do to make me use a coffee pot in a hotel room. Nothing. Okay, there's one. Yep. 1591. I do the same thing with my coffee. 1440. I do the same thing with my coffee. Tim, I'm with Jay. I do the same thing when I travel. Jonathan, I agree with Jay. The best coffee is your own coffee 99% of the time. And on they go. I haven't read all of them. And then I'm going to circle back to Ray, who you challenged because Ray said that scrambled eggs suck unless you put a lot of cheese in it. And he has responded to your challenge regarding coffee. And Ray says, yes, Jay, I like a little coffee with my cream and sugar. Thank you.
If I was a jerk, I would ask Ray if he put sugar in his grits.
Well, he might. He might. If he's doing all that with his coffee, maybe he does. Jay, I'm going to get to this superseding indictment, but first I want to get to Terry in Gallatin, who has a thought with Fri Jay in progress. Hey, Terry, how are you?
Hey, man, doing great. I just wanted to say I'm out here driving around in all this traffic, this rush hour and carrying on, and y'all started talking about scrambling eggs and drinking coffee, and I swear I pulled over and just started relaxing and really enjoyed that 3 or 4 minutes. And I'll tell you something else. I realized that for 58 years I've been scrambling eggs wrong. I've been pushing across. Pushing across instead of going from the outside and coming in. I can't wait to get home and try.
Mate, Terry, thank you so much.
That's awesome, Terry. Thank you, man.
I really enjoyed that. You guys have a great day.
All right, you do too, Terry. Thank you. That's pretty cool.
I'm 1 day old. What's that thing you hear about now? How old were you when you found out you're supposed to pull stuff from the outside of the middle? I had no idea.
I was today old when I found that out.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I knew it. I mean, there's a different way they do it at the old WH, but that's an entirely different setup. I mean, you can't translate Waffle House to your own kitchen because the setup is just completely different. So,
well, it's high volume.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Jay, give me a sense of from 50,000 feet. I know you like to do it from there first. I mean, what all of this means. I mean, it feels like Jack Smith is insistent that he insert himself in the presidential contest. I mean, it's untoward. We're 60 days out thereabouts, and he's throwing this back out. He knows that. I mean, well, I don't want to presume anything. Will any of this go anywhere before the election, Jay, in your opinion?
No, absolutely not. All you need to know about it is all this, once the Supreme Court decided the case like they did, Matt, there is 0% chance this case is going to trial before the election. So that's all you really need to know. You know, why is he doing this now? Well, he gets paid, right? And so he's got to do something. If he doesn't do anything, it looks like he's not doing his job. But yeah, it is tilting at windmills at this stage. Mm-hmm. And here's the deal: Supreme Court, those good ones up there are pretty smart. See, now they have to wrestle with exactly where is the immunity line in this case, man. What conduct is immune and what conduct isn't? And the Supreme Court said, Judge, you do that first. But they said this: before you go to trial, he gets to appeal before the trial.
Well, there's been a lot of questions now about, you know, whether or not any of this sentencing will happen. I noticed that, I don't know if you saw this, that the DA, Alvin Bragg, sent a letter to the judge.
Wait past it. Yeah, we're switching now to the New York.
Yeah. I'm flipping to the New York case, and I mean, with that recommendation, I mean, the judge gets to. I mean, you've taught me over the years that judges have a lot of power in their courtroom at the time that they make decisions. Do you think that will sway the judge in any way in his decision-making process?
Not that letter or not that position. As I've said all along, nothing about this case is about the law. It's 100% about politics. So I think his decision will be driven 100% by politics. I think he will do what he thinks is best calculated to hurt Trump as much as he can hurt him. And so whatever political calculation he does, that's what he's going to do. I'll say this, that conviction, if they thought that was going to crater Trump's campaign, well, that play didn't work.
No, none of them. I mean, there was 4 separate ones, and none of them came to fruition. None of them. I mean, the Democrats are, but they're, you know, they like to throw at me, Jay. I mean, I get it constantly on the X machine, I call it now, or constantly in emails where 34 felonies. They're just preaching to the choir with all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't hear it, but I guess I don't watch the same stuff you do. I hadn't seen anything about that on Motor Trend TV, man.
You're telling me Harrison Burton did not mention Donald Trump's 34 felonies when he won that race the other night?
And the Iron Resurrection, these great guys out in Texas that rebuild these old cars, they hadn't talked about it a single thing.
Not a bit. Jay St. Clair, these are some of the super text I'm going to get. Pat writes in, Jay St. Clair has revolutionized egg cooking in Middle Tennessee. The grocery stores will wonder why there's a run on eggs this afternoon. Now, a lot of folks are suggesting you put a little milk in your eggs, and I'm not going to do that, Jay. You do you.
Well, no, I get it. I totally get it. But there's a matter of taste. I'm gonna give it to you straight, man. This is shocking to me.
Uh-huh.
There are millions of people that root for the University of Florida.
I know.
So, everybody's got different tastes.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know how this happened, but there's some music playing in the background. I don't know if you can hear it, Jay, but oh, goodness gracious. Oh, that makes me feel light on my feet. Makes me feel like I have a pep in my step. I don't know about anybody else. I was actually, as Belle was doing that, I was trying to find, there was an actual question that came in for you. I think I put it over here on the prep side of things. When someone wants to know, Jay, you guys need to stop talking about useless stuff, and you need to ask Jay something serious. And here it is. What does he think our Vols record will be this year? Ask him if he think we can beat Bama and Georgia. Go Vols.
I am American by birth, man, but Southern by the grace of God.
Mm-hmm.
And everything in the South, sooner or later, comes back to college football.
It sure does, doesn't it?
We can argue about politics. We can argue about religion. We can argue about anything, right? But, boy, be careful when you get into college football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to watch yourself there. I'm keeping my head down and keeping quiet. That's all I'm doing.
Boy, that's... Well, where's that man? The loudmouth Matt Murphy comes out when I think we're probably going to lose a few games. Real quiet Matt Murphy comes out when I think we might have a shot at something. Can Trump continue to run for president if he's in a jail cell? That's an actual question. Yeah, good question. Good question. The answer is yes, absolutely.
Question for Jay. All right, question for Jay. 1112 writes in and says, can an employer withhold tips in a tip pool from an employee as a punishment?
Well, I wouldn't do that. I absolutely would not do that. I got to know a little bit more what's going on here, but man, you start messing with somebody's paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. You particularly can't take them below minimum wage. I mean, and there's got to be a real clear policy about that. I would never advise a client to do that.
So I guess the idea is that and just to pull back a little bit so I understand it better, there are some business establishments that the servers, all the tips go into one jar and then they divide them equally. I think that's so if it's a tip pool and 1112, tell me if I'm doing this wrong, but can an employer withhold tips from a tip pool? That means all the tips come in and everybody gets equal amounts out of the tips. And so he's asking, well, can one employee, no, you don't get your tip today because you did something wrong? I agree with you, Jay.
And you even kind of put the tip thing aside. The tip thing just makes it a little bit more risky. But let's say you're getting paid $15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the week, your company says, man, you just didn't do a very good job this week, so I'm only going to pay you $14 an hour this week. They just kept you paid there, which is what's happening here. Right? I mean, they're just taking some money I was paid.
Right.
Ooh, I wouldn't do that.
You're begging for a lawsuit, aren't you?
You're begging for a lawsuit, and I mean it's actually kind of a complicated technical little question, but boy, I wouldn't do it. So,
would they actually need to sue, or could they just go to the labor board over it?
Well, there's really no such thing. I mean, when you say labor board, you're probably meaning the National Labor Relations Board. They don't cover that sort of thing.
Oh,
what you do is go to the Department of Labor. You go to the Wage and Hour Division of the Department of Labor. that's who you would call. The Wage and Hour Division of the Department of Labor, and I'd call the feds. They may have some investigators at Tennessee state level, but I'd call the feds. The Wage and Hour Division of the Department of Labor, the person that wrote in, that's who you, if you want to pursue this without hiring a lawyer, that's who you should call. Absolutely.
All right, final.
Thank you,
yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Final question for you, Jay. And I always love these. Question for Jay, asking for a friend. And this person loves it, too, because after the asking for a friend, she put one of those little winky face emojis, Jay. Where, asking for a friend. Wink, wink.
I love it.
Spouse ran out on family over 10 years ago and refuses to submit divorce papers. She's not going to file to hold up her hand or pay for being abandoned. Is there a point of common law divorce, like common law marriage, gets tossed around? Some men aren't worth the trouble. Well, I'll agree with that.
No, there is no such thing as common law divorce. Sadly, there is no such thing. But if the relationship's over and it's never gone, the people are gone. And you want to get divorced, then you can just find that person that wants to, make it official can just file for divorce. That person can, and then if you don't know where the other person is, you can serve them by publication. You just take out ads and legal papers, and they don't ever respond. And then the judges are going to give your friend the divorce.
Okay.
But no, there is no. That's a very clever question. I did have a judge one time. The couple was in front of him fighting, and it wasn't gonna work. And the judge said, "Well, how long y'all been married?" He said, "Well, we never really got married, Judge. We just common law married." And he slammed his hammer down and said, "Well, you just got a common law divorce." I don't know if that's legal, but it happens.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Jay, I hope you hit them straight this weekend, and I hope to see you on the golf course sometime soon, okay?
Looking forward to it, buddy.